Do you believe in the sins? The 7 sins? Or do you believe in the chakras? The 7 chakras you have. I'm going to tell you a story about why exactly I believe in the chakras. Because I went down that path of, oh, am I a sinner? Am I a sinner? Am I a sinner? And the story of part of my path that I'm going to tell you was the story that made me scream out, question out, and beg the Most High to give me the answers. But you see, I was always a tomboy growing up. Always. I played ball. So much so that, when I was like 8 or something years old, I had a little flirtatious relationship with one of my parents' good friends, her younger son, and I said I was going to be his cheerleader for the football team that he played on. And I went to the first practice, and boy, did I regret it immediately. But, I was raised to finish what I started, so I did. But being a ball player was always in my blood. A tomboy. Long before, these other names came about. Always, put a t-shirt on, put some shorts on down to your knees, put your hair up in a bun and go run with the boys, Tough. I was raised tough. My father raised me, not to rely on a man. I'm not going to get into that, but, I was just the predicament, the situation, and how I was naturally. I ended up, long story short, falling in love with a woman. But prior to falling in love with her, I want you to understand that there were circumstances that drawed this side of me out even more. And as the story goes on, the daddy issues. And then the relationships that I was involved in that was with the opposite sex that didn't end up good relationships. Little did I know that revolved back to the daddy issues. So by the time I was 24 and I got on a one-way plane ticket, let's just say I was very broken inside. I was like a lost little puppy in a Category 5 hurricane. And not only that, I put all these walls around my heart, right? I mean, isn't that what you naturally do after you've been hurt so much? You end up wanting to guard your heart. And so when I got on that one-way plane ticket, the last thing I was looking for was a relationship. Prior to getting on that one-way plane ticket, I was at a point in my life where I used to look at men and say, look, I'll be your wing woman. I'll mess with your girl before you touch me. Like my mentality and my pain was that real. And I didn't get the love and the comfort that my soul needed from the man that raised me. He was a very tough man to have as a parent. Even though there's so much I am grateful for how his teachings or parenting was towards me, it was also very extremely difficult. When you're raised to be tough and the one shoulder you want to cry on doesn't even know how to be vulnerable. And he went through a lot himself for him to have the mentality he had to raise me. And I don't regret it, but it was just hard. And so here I was landing in the mountains 600 plus miles away from anybody and anybody I knew besides my best friend and basically my second family that was about an hour away from where I wanted to build my life. And I wanted to figure this all out and get this journey going. And so within that first year of me being up here, this wasn't my first relationship with a female. I just want to make that clear. I met this girl. And me and her were both at a point in our lives where we weren't even looking for anything serious. We weren't even out looking for a relationship. We had things going on in our own personal lives that we needed to focus on and deal with and get through. But lo and behold, there was just this connection. And that connection blossomed into the most beautiful relationship I've ever had, in the most unconditionally loving environment, home I've built or ever got to experience up until this point. And I was about 25 years old once this was blossoming. I ended up in a house. Long story short, she ended up moving into that house, and before you know it, long story short, we're engaged. We bought the house together from the person, that owned it, while I was living in it prior to buying it with her from that person. And I had a job at UPS. So I was engaged, had the whole entire house set up, and had what, this world wants to deem a good job. It was great. I fell in love. And from somebody that was in so much pain, so much agony, never knew what soft love felt like up until this point. Here I was, in love with a woman with the most beautiful soul. Maybe besides my grandmother that I've ever encountered. But this was a different relationship than my grandmother, so it was a different experience of the type of love I received. If you understood my heart up until this point, this young lady was the catalyst to my healing journey. She broke down walls she wasn't even trying to break down, because I was able to experience a physical love on a whole nother level. The closest love of everyday love that I received up until this point was from my dog, my soul dog. So having this human experience with another human was a magical experience. And as beautiful as it felt, at some point in the journey, I'm a sinner. I'm not supposed to be doing this. And all of this, is going on in my brain, all the thoughts, going through all the emotions, all the thoughts. I mean, all the thoughts and all the emotions. You have so much love for this person, but the world's going to tell you this. The world's telling you you're going to go burn in hell because you fell in love with the most beautiful soul you've ever came in contact with. So much so, you're so used to tough, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually being taken advantage of, that if you were to even raise your tone with this young lady, she's so soft-hearted. Even if you were to go even get frustrated, angry, or anything to that nature, she's automatically almost in tears. Most beautiful soul. Mind you, all she's ever been with is another female. I just want to make that clear. So, somebody who has such an impact on your healing spiritual journey, on your soul's journey, the world's telling me the opposite. And there was a piece of the world, when I made the call to leave her, after, a few months after I got down on one knee and proposed to her, there were certain things that were happening where I was seeing past the present, and I knew what I needed to do. Because I knew that she was a big part of my life, but I had this small feeling like maybe this isn't supposed to be forever. It's hard to explain, but there was a lot going on in my mind to where my intuition was like, there was things going on in our relationship too. You know, where just how I am and how she is. It was almost becoming clear where it was like we were part of each other's journey, but we're not supposed to be on this journey forever together. Because it wasn't just, oh, I'm not supposed to be with her because I'm sinning. Like that was not my thought process. Even though there was a small percentage of it in my mind. But that wasn't what pushed me, because at the end of the day, I follow my heart and my intuition. I don't care what other people say or think because they don't know. So that wasn't my indicator to leave. But there was all these bits and pieces that were coming together that was guiding me to go down a certain path. And when I say that certain path, the path entailed me leaving her, me leaving my job at UPS, and selling the house all at the same time. And this was the beginning of 2020, right after COVID-19 and all that, you know, when life got really weird in the States and around the country, or around the world. And so I did that. And I bought a motorhome. And the journey, you know, took a whole different path. But the point of what I'm getting at is, after all that happened, it's been 4 years, or 5 years now, April 2025. And when you experience the most beautiful relationship you've ever experienced, the only thing you can do is question, out, cry, and plead, and ask why. Why did you make me do this? It's like, I understand in the physical, you know, because of now I am here 5 years later. I understand because of everything that has transpired. But I needed answers as to why I would go through this. Why you would give the one person in my life that has given me the most unconditional love, who has helped me build a home and a foundation that I love coming home to. Why would you rip me from her? Why would you guide me away from everything I just built? A home, the relationship, the job. Why would you take me away from all of this? Why would you do this to me? Isn't this what I'm supposed to be doing? Why would you give me such a blessing? And now I'm supposed to think it's of the enemy? And yet she was a significant part of my journey when it comes to healing inside your heart, because I never felt that from a human. Yeah, I felt it from my grandma. But I mean, how often did I see my grandma? I didn't want to go home growing up. It never felt like home. And all of a sudden I have this home. And now I got to get rid of it? And so as the years have gone on, and I haven't found myself in a relationship, in a serious relationship, and I have become more celibate than anything, and I've really focused and tried to understand it all, because I'm not going to rely on a book. I'm not going to rely on anybody else. I'm going to take information from all of these sources, but that's not going to be the way I come up with my own answers. And the more I went in for my inner understanding, the more it became abundantly clear that there's multiple reasons as to why people end up in a same-sex marriage or same-sex relationship. Some people are truly, 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 naturally born that way. I went to school with them. I grew up with these folks. I know folks that never had a relationship with a man, that would turn the straight girls gay. You know what I'm saying? All of the scenarios. I've watched someone transition before it even became idolized. And everybody knew she was the biggest tomboy. Heck, I used to think she was sexy. I used to be like, And she didn't look like me. And now she's a he. Or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I have been around many different walks of life to understand that there's multiple reasons why people can end up in a same-sex relationship. But I also understand that it can be part of somebody's soul's journey. Soul ties. It's divinely guided. And you see, the folks that only have worldly eyes to see, they don't understand that there's more to at play in the spirit than anything. That relationship played the most significant role. So much so, the man that I actually, go loyal to, the next relationship that I'm in, it's all thanks to her in a sense. The way she was able to get me in such a heart space after so much pain, after so much neglect, after so much abuse, after all of it. Not only that, I was literally trying to rebuild my life. I gained 50 pounds in 1 year. I was going through hormonal problems. I was going through so much. And yet, that relationship was a key to my spiritual growth, to my spiritual understanding, to my spiritual journey, to my soul's journey and purpose. How can I sit here and talk to anybody or speak for the Most High without experiencing or understanding any of it? And after years of pleading and begging and asking for the answers, lie on thy not understanding. Or, I'm sorry, however that quote goes, if I misquoted it. There are people out here that are truly born that way. And I came across information of people actually Morse coding the Bible to where it actually says it. But I don't have all these notations and everything to, put it in front of your face. I've had so much information come across me to where I get so many downloads and epiphanies and revelations in an inner understanding. I don't need to have a depth of information come in front of me to believe what I know. I've experienced it, and I've asked for help and understanding and guidance. And I have went within, and I have received it. I was going through so much. I was already naturally a tomboy. I had daddy issues. I was literally raised to not rely on a man. And then before you know it, my mind was a certain way when it came to men. Seriously. I mean, I got arrested because of one. I got Baker acted because of one. I had to put a restraining order on one. There's so much to the story, but the significance on the role this young lady played in my life, it was destined. It was part of my soul's journey. I couldn't have even bought the house if I wanted to because of my credit at the time. I mean, there was so much at play to where the combination of us two, it worked out so well for the both of us. I made an impact on her life, and she made a huge impact on mine. And I will forever be grateful for her. That's why I'll never take this off. This will always be something that I cherish forever. And so it's quite interesting, when folks, Because I have Christian folks in my family that would say certain things. But yet they had no understanding as to why and what I was going through, because they weren't in the spirit. But you see, when you're in the spirit, you have more of an understanding, because you're not relying on thy understanding of these worldly eyes. And you're not seeing it through a worldly lens. Even though I experienced it in this world, I got in the spirit for so long, begging and pleading for the answers. If you understood the significance on the love that I felt from this young lady compared to my own family members, it is a drastic difference. And so when you're put in that situation, going through real life problems, real life pain, man, that sun got hot quick. And you have such a journey with this person on same sex, but then the world is trying to tell you all of this other things. You see, while I was going through all this, I didn't have social media. I didn't have spiritual people around me or on the spiritual videos on my page or anything like that. I was literally between me and the Most High. And as the time went on, 5 years later, just here recently, this past year, 6 months plus, the spiritual stuff started coming across my page. All I've had was a YouTube in the last 7 years, and I did gain a TikTok this past, the past 6 months, year. And so a lot of things were also being confirmed to me. After already having an understanding of what the Most High was trying to explain to me. When it comes to the divine, when it comes to spirit, when it comes to being in the spiritual community, however you want to relay it, because I don't even like saying I'm spiritual. I am. It's just like that simple. Spiritual is still putting a classification on something. And, I'm so past all these labels. I've never been a person of label in all those things, and I'm so past it. But at this point, it has become abundantly clear to me the way the Most High broke it down. The thing is, we all have a true understanding of what good and bad is. Just like when it comes to wine in the Bible. It's one thing to have a glass, but it's one thing to be a drunk. It's like you have to understand the boundaries. You have to understand your own personal boundaries. My boundaries and your boundaries aren't the same. Your path and my path is not the same. And so when it comes to these sins, and you look at it as the chakras, it makes a whole lot of sense. Because what the message is the blockages, is what the enemy will come after, what the enemy wants to attack. Because the more your the more your chakras are attacked, the less, let me say it this way. You cannot become your higher self if you're not in tune with your chakras. And if your chakras are being tampered with, the 7 sins, by the enemy, by the air and principalities we're up against, then you're not able to be your highest self. But that's your own personal journey, because my chakras and your chakras are going to feel different. Nobody's journey looks the same, and everybody's on a completely different path. But if you understand Jesus Christ's actual walk, you understand that that's one of the teachings he was incorporating, was the chakras. It was just translated to sins over time. And I'm at a point where nobody can tell me different, because the Most High broke it down for me when it came to my own personal relationship, the best relationship I ever had or experienced up until this point at age 32. And it was of the same sex. But it was made very clear to me that she was a huge part of this journey. And I'm not going to hell for it. And there are some people out here that are truly born that way. And you can tell from a very young age, you can tell. And once you understand that you're not even supposed to judge, you'd be able to come to these conclusions as well. Because you wouldn't be relying on your own understanding. You'd be wanting the Most High to break it down for you. And the divine, and spirit, your ancestors, etc. And it will slowly start being broken down for you. But if you stay in a judgmental state because you're not understanding, you will not be able to elevate. See, I was wanting to understand why. I wasn't asking anybody else for their opinion. I wasn't asking anybody else for answers. I went inward. And then the information started pouring in. And all these years later, after going through so many struggles and battles and all these other things, and at some point in the journey, oh, I'm going to hell, oh, I'm such a sinner, just really trying to understand the depths of this, that relationship helped me understand. And it had nothing to do with relying on outside of me, even though the outside sources were a significant key or significant pieces, I should say, that helped me come to my conclusion and helped me build my own puzzle. Puzzle pieces everywhere else, here, there, here. All of a sudden I have a picture I made. Because I used those pieces to make the picture. But I didn't rely on those pieces, if you understand what I'm saying, if that makes any sense. And as you judge people that are going through similar things in which I'm speaking of, or just anything you don't understand, who's more of the sinner, if you want to say it that way? The one that's judging, or the one that's trying to go through the motions, figure it out? Because let me tell you this, many are called, few are chosen. And sometimes the chosen ones are the ones going through a complete mess, or the homeless ones, or the drug addict, or whatever you want to call it. And you're looking at them a certain way. Meanwhile, you haven't looked in the mirror and gone inward for whatever it is that you need to work on. When it comes to the sins, it keeps you in a fear-based. When it comes to the chakras, you understand. Because you understand that those are targets for the enemy. Not only that, you want to talk about witchcraft and all these other things that are utilized to target. It makes a lot more sense. And just from my own personal experiences, I've come to this conclusion. I didn't need to read a book, but I did listen to the ones that do read a book. You understand? And so if you're ever out there thinking that, let me judge somebody because you have no idea what they're going through, just remember, where's your heart chakra at? And when you point at somebody else, you always have how many fingers pointing back at you? We're not supposed to understand each other's journey because all of our journeys are supposed to look different. But our journeys are supposed to help one another. Well, I think it's going to rain. I'm going to go. Peace and love.